Welcome to Childcare Rockstar Radio. I am your host, Kris Murray. Childcare leaders around the globe are breaking through challenges, leading the way in innovation, testing new best practices, and impacting children and families in a much more powerful and positive way than ever before. Each week, join me for interviews with early childhood leaders and experts that will leave you inspired to become the next childcare rockstar. Now, let's go. This is Childcare Rockstar Radio, episode 152, featuring Cindy Lehnhoff. Thank you for returning to this show. I am your host, Kris Murray, here at Childcare Rockstar Radio. And whether you are watching me on YouTube or listening to me on a podcast platform, I just want to thank you for spending your valuable time with me to learn about ECE business strategies and propel yourself to your next level of growth. So well done, you. And today's episode is a really important one. We're talking about advocacy with the director of the National Child Care Association, Ms. Cindy Lehnhoff, who got into our industry in 1980, which I love. And she had several decades of experience with the Learning Care Group in many different roles, growing throughout their organization. And then in 2016, she joined, I think it was 2016, right around there, joined the National Child Care Association as director and growing it into the organization that it is today. So very, very thrilled to have Cindy on the podcast today and have you meet her. She is such a heartfelt lady, and she has so much wisdom to share around how to help this industry, how to help us be stronger, more professional, to show up in a bigger way and better way for ourselves, right? To be our own best advocates. And we're going to talk all about how to take baby steps into the world of advocacy. If you want to be a change maker, or even if you're not sure, this episode is for you. So stay tuned and don't go anywhere. I want to share with you that this episode is sponsored in part by our friends over at ProCare. Imagine a day when the hours you'd spend on time-consuming administrative work for your childcare business could instead be spent doing what you love, nurturing the children. 2 out of 3 child-centered businesses that use childcare management software choose ProCare. That's 66% of our field using ProCare. That's because as the #1 rated platform, ProCare helps owners and directors manage every part of their business while saving hours of time. Up to 54 hours per month has been documented. Ready to learn how ProCare can partner with you every step of the way to support the success of your childcare business? Request a demo today at procare.solutions/rockstar. That's procare.solutions/rockstar. You are listening to this in real time. And if you are, it is June 8th or thereabouts. It's early to mid-June. And my world is greatly transforming as we speak. I just celebrated my daughter's 18th birthday and her graduation from high school. She is my younger child. I have a son who's almost 21, and my daughter Maeve is now 18. And we are celebrating throughout these first few weeks of summer in a big way, celebrating her, celebrating me, celebrating life. And it just feels so good. So I hope that you're enjoying your early summer. I hope that you made it through the crazy, crazy zany last couple of weeks of May and all the graduations of the children out of your school and or shifting into your summer camp program, and all of that transition that takes place at this time of year can be quite hectic, not to mention Mother's Day, Father's Day, birthdays, all the things. So I hope that you're being good to yourself. I hope that you are finding intentionally some time to disconnect, get some R&R, rest and relax and recharge for the fall season. And many of you take time off in June and July to do just that. So I hope that you are doing that. And if not, put it on your to-do list at the top. Cindy Lehnhoff is an incredible lady with so much wisdom and so much knowledge about best practices in our industry. Having worked in a corporate ECE environment for decades, she brings so much leadership and administrative operational expertise, as well as understanding how to drive more profit to the bottom line in your schools and how to add more value for children and families and teachers. So I'm very, very excited and blessed to have her on the podcast. And I wanted to also mention that in addition to the resources that we talk about with Advocacy and ECE, we have our own Facebook group that's open to anyone that would like to join us at Child Care Champions. And so you could just go to Facebook and Google or search up inside of Facebook Child Care Champions, and it'll bring you to our group. Anyone can join who is a champion and interested in issues facing our industry. And so that's another resource for you that I neglected to mention on the podcast. We are going to talk about ways that you can stay in the know with regard to policy changes and laws that come into effect. We have information for you about something called action alerts. You're going to want to stay tuned for that. We're talking about how you can leverage your political power as a business owner or leader, how you can connect with people in your community and or your policymakers or state legislators to have an impact in state law. We talk all about misconceptions and fears around advocacy and how you might think that it's going to take a ton of your time and you don't have a lot of time, and how to engage parents and teachers in this alongside you and why that matters, and so much more in this episode. Before we get there, I also need to let you know that this episode is sponsored in part by the Child Care Success Academy. If you're a fan of this show, you know the powerful transformations that ECE business owners and their leadership teams achieve inside of our academy through coaching with myself and my coaches. It's the world's first, best, and largest coaching organization exclusively for childcare business. The Academy is currently accepting new applications, and a childcare business coach is standing by right now. So take the first baby step by booking your free call today at childcaresuccess.com/apply. childcaresuccess.com/apply. And we'd love to have a chat with you to find out which level of coaching might be right for you or whether it's a fit at all. No obligation. Hop on a call today at childcaresuccess.com/apply. And there's no cost. And as I mentioned, no obligation. So what are you waiting for? Let's go. Okay. Without any further ado, it's time for you to meet Cindy. And let's dive into advocacy and into some history around our industry and where we've been and where we're headed here on Child Care Rockstar Radio. Enjoy. Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm Kris Murray, and I'm very excited to bring to you today Ms. Cindy Lehnhoff with the National Child Care Association and an industry veteran. Cindy, how are you?
I'm well. Thank you, Kris. And yourself?
Doing fantastic today.
Yeah, always better on a Friday than a Monday.
Absolutely. And also spring is in full bloom here in Colorado. We've waited a while and we're very, very excited to see all of the beautiful fruit trees and everything blooming here. So it's just absolutely gorgeous.
Well, you do live in a beautiful place. I've been there a few times and I can't argue that it's one of the most beautiful places.
Well, thank you very much. And where are you located?
Well, I'm pretty lucky too. I live in Florida.
Nice.
And it also is a beautiful place. I live on the Upper East Coast, and we've been enjoying what we call spring, which is actually more summer in most places, where it's warm, but not sweltering yet.
Yeah.
But I always say people don't live in Florida for summer. They live in Florida for winter.
Yes, absolutely. Great. Well, tell us a little bit about your professional journey in early childhood education, some highlights of the journey, and how long have you been in the field?
All right. Well, I've been in the field since 1980. I started as a 3-hour-a-day preschool teacher in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And I had the opportunity to go to work for a company, a small family-owned company out of Kansas City, Missouri, that eventually became the second largest childcare company. And that would be La Petite Academy.
Okay.
La Petite is now part of the Learning Care Group family, which encompasses several brands, including Child Time, Tutor Time, Montessori Unlimited, and La Petite Academy, and a few others that they've added since I retired from there in 2016. I had a great career, and I had the opportunity to serve as a field manager in different positions in 12 different states over my 36-year tenure. My last assignment from 2009 to 2016 was area vice president for the Southeast. And, it was just time for me to start spending a little more time at home, because like most of us that work in this field, we don't really know how to step back from it.
Yeah.
And I was having lots of grandchildren born, and I felt like I was missing a lot.
Yes. And go ahead.
Okay. I don't know if you want to know, it was really being a district manager in Oklahoma that got me started in advocacy. And I'll try to, limit that long conversation. But I was a district manager of 8 childcare centers for La Petite. We had opened them from the ground up. And at that time, the oil industry went under in Oklahoma and Texas, and banks were failing. And I had all these new childcare centers to fill.
Wow.
And people were losing high-paying jobs. And the childcare industry was struggling in Oklahoma and Texas a lot. And a lady by the name of Kathy Cronmiller, who became my mentor in advocacy, just kept stalking me to come join the Oklahoma Child Care Association. And like a lot of people in today's world, I didn't think I had time.
Right.
I was trying to save my business. Well, lo and behold, I finally gave up and went, because she just kept insisting that I come. And guess what? They helped me save my childcare business.
Wow.
Because the small businesses on the ground in Oklahoma knew more about how to help me than my northern-based company. And my northern-based company was fine with supporting me once they knew what I needed. So I'm a big advocate for the business as a whole, whether you own one childcare center or you own, 600. And then she is also the one that got me excited about National Child Care Association and participating in national advocacy, and then also Neckpa accreditation. And one of the last things I had the opportunity to do in my last 10 years of working at LCG was supporting over 100 schools in becoming nationally accredited.
That's amazing. And what is your role at NCCA now?
I am the director.
Okay.
I actually was asked in 2016 to be the interim director, because NCCA had actually lost its footing during I think it was early 2000s, mid 2000s, sometimes dates evade me.
Yeah.
And a lot of the states dropped out, and that was the only way to be a member. You had to be a state association.
Right.
And so, and I was no longer a board member because La Petite didn't see the advantage of it at the time. And nobody really did, because there were so few state associations participating.
Right.
Well, then there were a couple of board members that had been working hard to keep it moving, and realized that their management company wasn't doing what they needed to do to help it get back on its feet. And they came to Neckpa, because they are also on the Neckpa board, and said, would you take NCCA and try to rebuild it? And I was the only board member that was retired and had advocacy experience. So I was supposed to do it for a year. And that was actually 2019.
Right.
And I'm really happy to say I'm still here.
Yes.
Because obviously the industry blew up in a way we never anticipated during the pandemic.
Right. So we have the connection points so prior to you coming into NCCA, I actually was partnered with them early days in my career. In 2012, I went to their annual conference in Las Vegas in March of 2012. And my book had just come out, my first book. And I did a pre-conference session, and then I did a regular day session, and I had a booth. And it was a great conference. So that a lot of people that I met early days that I'm still aligned with, we met in Vegas at the NCCA show in 2012, and it was a very well attended. So that was kind of right before the loss of footing took place, as I remember. And I also spoke in Oklahoma at a leadership group conference for about 40 directors were there, and all Oklahoma directors and owners. And that was very, very cool too. And I think that was 2013. So we definitely have like little threads where we've been on the similar parts of the journey, but at different times in the timeline. So that's kind of neat.
It is. And I think that, it's like anything else that is worth doing. Somehow, we come back around and find each other.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
our goal is the same. We want our providers to be able to thrive so they can do their best work for families.
That's right. That's right. It's at the end of the day, it's about the kids, and that's why we're here. So tell us a little bit about yourself personally. You're living in Florida, and tell us just more about your home life or hobbies, journeys, stuff that you're doing, fun stuff.
Well, I married my high school sweetheart almost 51 years ago, and we are still together. I'm not sure how or why, but it obviously was the plan for us.
Yeah.
And we have 3 adult children that I always tell people are incredible, self-supporting, kind-hearted, hardworking individuals that we don't have to support. And I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
And the best piece of the pie is we have 6 grandchildren ranging in age from 5 to 26. And we have 2 great grandchildren.
Wow.
A 1-year-old and a 6-year-old. And so a lot of my time, my free time is really spent either visiting the grandchildren that aren't here or actually spending time playing and doing things with the grandchildren that live here in Florida. Because after my husband and I moved here, which was for Learning Care Group in 2009, my 2 daughters were not married and decided to move here and start careers. And now, they have children.
Oh, great.
We like to swim. Our latest passion is volleyball in the pool. And my husband and I like to play golf with friends. That's a few things that we like to do. So
nice. Awesome. And what is a fun fact that you'd like to share? Something that not that many people know about you?
Well, it goes back to my career. I never really pursued a career in early care and education. It pursued me. I actually went into a La Petite to enroll my 3-year-old in preschool. And I didn't know anything about him. I just saw a sign. We were new in Oklahoma City because my husband had transferred there with his employment. And I went in and spent time talking to the director to find out about their program. And I hadn't really decided if I was going to work, go back to school. I was a stay-at-home mom, but I knew I wanted to do something. Well, in the discussion, she asked me about, had I ever thought about working with children? And I said, well, I teach Sunday school and I volunteered in my son's preschool. I said, but that's about the extent of it. Well, in 1980, that was good experience.
Right.
And so she is the one that hired me for the 3-hour-a-day position that I held with 4-year-olds. And a lot of people don't know that my career found me. And most of the positions that I've held with Learning Care Group, I was invited to apply for. So
that's great. Thanks for that. That's a really cool behind the scenes history of how you got into the industry. Let's talk. We're going to shift gears and talk about our topic today that we really want to dig in on, which is advocacy. And for the listeners, Cindy and I and lots of folks have been working in the trenches of policy related work, trying to make a difference, trying to make an impact, trying to make a change for issues that we believe in that are vital to the future of this industry. And so I wanted to bring Cindy here to dive into this topic for those of you guys that just don't have any experience with advocacy or just want to learn more and do a deeper dive on the topic. And there's a lot to share. There's a lot to cover. So first, let's start with the most common misconception. What is a very common belief regarding advocacy around among professionals that you would challenge?
I don't know if I would call it a misconception, but for the most part, early childhood professionals, they simply just don't get involved in advocating for themselves. For some of them, it's a matter of having enough time or making the time to do it. But for many people, it's just they are not comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people that work with children, they're very comfortable with children. And they're not as comfortable with adults.
Yes.
And getting out and also and advocating for the needs that they have as business owners.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest concern we have in the industry about advocacy. Because if we can't get past that, we're not going to have a big enough unified voice.
Yeah.
And
so that's a really good point. And I do work a lot with owners and leaders trying to shore up their confidence. For us, changing mindset and helping them have a growth mindset to not be the best kept secret and to be more brave and courageous and confident about working with adults is definitely a challenge and can be, it's part of the journey for a lot of people is to get comfortable with it. So with that, what are some things that listeners can do if they're shy about becoming an advocate or they don't really feel like they're nervous about making their voice heard potentially, or they just don't know how to get started? What are some things that you would recommend as ways to either connect with people like yourselves and myself around this topic or just get started in this journey?
well, again, it is connection. And before I answer that question, I just want to say I attended one of your conferences, right, your summits in Orlando, right before COVID, I think.
Yes, 2019.
You do exactly what you say. You build people up. And that is one thing that working with people within your organization and your membership, it's going to serve advocacy well.
Yes.
You've already done what a lot of people need.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. And but again, it's actually connecting, doing something as simple as I did. I joined. I was in Oklahoma. I had 8 centers. Was responsible for both operationally and financially. And I finally listened to what someone else was trying to tell me is to, come to the Oklahoma Child Care Association. We get together every month and we, talk about ways we can, work together to improve the situation for children and families and keep providers' doors open. And I think when you first go, you want to listen. You want to make sure you're in the right place and that this is a good fit for you. Other than childcare organizations, in some areas where there aren't childcare organization or childcare associations, sometimes there's just meetings that directors meet, and have a lunch and discuss things. There's also Chamber of Commerce's right now are really some of our best advocates for childcare. This is something that has happened over the last couple of years because the small business owners that typically make up, the chambers need employees, and they're learning that they're hearing from people. I can't, I don't have anybody to watch my baby. I wanted to come back to work, but
right.
And so, those are areas that I would say make the connection. We actually say there's 3 C's in advocacy, and it's collaborate, connect, and communicate. So before you even become the advocate, you got to connect.
Yeah.
And you got to mingle.
Yeah.
Find out what other people are experiencing and thinking and what they're doing about it.
So a great way is just to join your state association. And we also are going to talk about joining the National Child Care Association. If you don't have a state association, that can substitute, but there is no substitute to me to get involved in a locals directors group, a regional one, or certainly at a state level. And then you can meet people at the state, in your state association, assuming you have one that's active, to start making those collaborations and those connections, Cindy. So, and we even have people, I'll give a shout out to Dory Hobbs, because we have people in our group that are creating a state association from scratch because they didn't have one. So Dory saw that need in Oregon. And so she has been instrumental, and she's leading the charge to start the Oregon Child Care Association in her state. So if you don't have one, find some friends and start one.
Right.
You know? Like, let's go.
Yeah. And if anybody can give them some good information on how to start something and make it big, look what you did.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So let's talk about some of the issues that you and I are both trying to impact in our work. What are one or two key issues that you find to be important for the future of childcare providers that we would like to change policy around?
Well, a couple of them certainly center around treating our childcare professionals as professionals and as the essential individuals that we are. And because it really wasn't until the pandemic that light shined very brightly in the eyes of people outside of childcare. And it was recognized at that time that they were as important. They were the reason that the essential people got to go to work.
That's right. That's right.
Essential. So that's something that is top of mind. Unfortunately, the pandemic, we saw a lot of childcare professionals leave the industry. And we were already struggling because we had been encouraging childcare professionals to get credentials and degrees. Because of the situation in public schools, we were losing individuals as they graduated to public school positions because, those positions are paid differently. They have retirement programs, they have benefits. And one of the things that we're going to have to come to terms with in policy, and I think this goes all the way up to the Child Development Block Grant, is that we're going to have to require that states do better when it comes to what rates are they paying providers who are doing business where the majority of the children, or even half of the children that live in the states, qualify for child care assistance. For years, most states have underpaid. And then providers are picking up a lot of slack just to fill their buildings. And in some cases, the price of people who weren't qualifying went up.
Right.
And so that's got to be addressed. The other thing is that we want high quality, we want continuity of care for children in classrooms, and because we know that's high quality. But at the same time, if the states are allowed to use block grant funds to only pay when a child's attending, well, that would be like saying you only pay to go to college when your child shows up for class. The teacher's still there.
Right.
Their chair is still there.
That's right.
And you can't fill a space for a day.
Yeah.
And so those are two big ones that if we were able to address that, then there would be more money flow into providers that could go into salaries and better benefits. The other one is we have millions and millions of lower and middle class customers that do not qualify for subsidy, but not able to pay the rates that providers have to charge. And I want to emphasize have to charge.
Yeah.
Because I don't want anybody to think I am saying or suggesting that providers lower their cost. I know what it costs. I looked at monthly P&Ls for, over 30 years.
Yes.
So that's going to have to be addressed somewhere. But I think there's an opportunity not only for funding at federal level, but then at state and local levels for that to be addressed, but also in other ways. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with the CHIPS Act, where
yes,
yes,
I actually learned about this from you, which is great. Yeah,
yeah.
tell the listeners what this is about.
It's where the government is giving money to people that are willing to build businesses to produce chips, computer chips, because I don't know if I'm sure you recall there was a shortage of chips
Yes.
along the line during the pandemic. But part of that bill requires those employers to do something to help their employees make childcare accessible and affordable. And I can tell you that works because I actually had a couple of centers when I was working at LCG that I was responsible for in two. One was for Mercedes-Benz in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually gave the space and maintained the facility for their employees to have care. It lowered the cost significantly because they managed the facility piece and paid for it, which is like 25% or more, where you are. Same with Carnival Cruise Lines down in Miami. So that's what the CHIPS Act can do, and other programs like that.
Yes.
And then also HR managers are starting to become very interested in this becoming part of their benefit package. Mm-hmm. Because there are companies that really can't do an on-site, but what if they partnered with a childcare business in their community and bought so many slots and it lowered the price for employees? And so there's a lot of ways that this can happen. And fortunately, we're seeing more discussions, but it can be frustrating because our government doesn't move fast.
Yeah.
And some of the other people are just now realizing it. It's a fairly new pain.
Well, I think that it would be a huge, huge push and a solution to create a bill nationwide that would allow small, medium, and large businesses to provide employer-sponsored care at some level, and you could adopt a 2 or 3 tier system, and then get tax benefits, corporate tax benefits as a reward for doing so. Like, that seems to me like a great solution. We're a small business. We're a $5 million business. We have 25 employees, but I would love to provide some level of childcare benefit for my employees if it meant that I could also save a little bit of tax. So I think that would be an amazing type of bill. So I'm going to watch the CHIPS bill very closely and see how that all unfolds.
Well, maybe we should all get together and write ourselves.
Yeah, I know.
Because again, the writing of bills and how they move, through Congress and where they go, that's another thing that I'm concerned about, and many people are concerned about, is that the practitioners, those of us that have been doing this, think about what we all know.
Right.
Works and maybe what doesn't work. And again, like you said, one of the you would like to see a bill that does this.
Yeah.
We're not at those tables.
Yes.
We're not at those tables.
Mm-hmm. And we need to get to sit at those tables.
We do. We need franchise
Mm-hmm.
companies. We need big companies. We need small regional chains. We need smaller business owners. There are so many bright, intelligent people in this industry. And that's one of the things I love about our champions call that we have with the ECEC. We have a voice from the field on 90% of those calls, and they are people that own their own centers and what they have done to advocate for themselves.
Yeah. So we're going to give some resources at the end of this episode, because I've got a Facebook group and we've got the ECEC champions. And so we'll dive into that. So with regard to how to get a seat at the table, this reminds me of my friend and member, Chantel Pettengill, because she has a seat at the table in Maine. She has made a ton of strides and inroads, just making connections, collaboration, connection with her lawmakers, with Susan Collins, who she knows, the people that support Susan in the legislator's office, and has, been on the floor of the Maine legislature and has presented bills. And so and you don't have to do all of that, but just starting to know who are the policymakers and the influencers at that level in your state, I think is an important next step to be at the table when these conversations happen, because most legislators want to know small business people in their region, in their constituency. They want to know.
Absolutely.
I'm doing childcare related issues. I would love to have 1 or 2 or 3 childcare owners that I can actually consult with, and we could do a little focus group and get the voice of the constituency on this issue. So just being part of that conversation, it's not that hard to actually stand up and start to be known and make those connections. So I just wanted to say that.
No, and that's you're so on point, because I did want to just bring up that a state like New Mexico is making incredible inroads.
Yeah,
because they're doing exactly what you just said, that one of your
members,
members is doing in Maine.
Yes.
And Angela Garcia is her name. And she's an owner of a couple of centers, and she's been so involved. We've actually had her present on the Champions calls as an example of how to build those relationships with the people that can really help you.
Yes.
And one of the things that we are really, really impressing upon people is that when we're educating them about advocacy, is you have to speak their language. And you said it, they're worried about the people that operate small businesses in their community. Legislators are worried about that. They're worried about the economy. And so you have to relate that the situation with childcare right now is affecting those things and keeping them from thriving.
So what would you recommend to engage more people in this? Let's say that you as an owner or director have gotten involved and you're working with your state association, but we still need to engage other people that are in our constituencies or in our world, our communities. Like, should we engage our team members and teachers? Should we engage, fellow leaders? Should we engage parents? How do we engage all of these other groups?
Well, I can remember back in the day when I was a district manager, and people would be aggravated about if they got cut off from their subsidy because they were making too much money, or they had co-payment that they couldn't pay because they made too much money.
Right.
And I started saying to them, have you ever thought about calling the lead agency or the Department of Human Services or the governor?
Yeah.
We don't make these decisions.
Right.
We would love for you to have no co-payment on at your income level. We hate that you lost your contract to have childcare because you got a 50-cent raise. And so I think we've got to make people more aware that what we do and how we do it is somewhat determined for us. And if they would like to have, to have childcare more affordable, or not have us close an infant room because we can't staff it, it's like, help us help you.
That's right.
And we provide them literature and talking points, to talk to their state legislators or their federal legislators.
Mm-hmm.
And when you join an organization like NCCA or Child Care Aware or a few others out there, they're always putting out what we call action alerts when it's that time where this is being discussed. When the Appropriations Committee is talking about, well, how much are we going to give the Child Care Development Block Grant?
Mm-hmm.
What is it? Now's the time to call. We'll send you an email. You push a button and it connects you right, and put your zip code in, and it connects you right with your senator or your representative.
Right. Yeah, I've seen those. And that's
if we could get enough people.
So helpful. Yeah. Love that. Yeah. So So let's dive into the National Child Care Association and what you do, because you've told me that your mission is to connect the dots for providers across all the states. And there's nobody better to run this than you, Cindy, because you've got 12 states of experience as a director, regional director under your belt. So the fact that you worked in 12 states actively is amazing. So talk about the work that you're doing at NCCA, just like what are the benefits of being a member, and when people are a member, so they're going to get these action alerts, they're going to get updates on advocacy, and just tell us more about what people receive as part of that organization.
Well, a couple of things. We also do monthly webinars, and we work very hard at making sure those webinars are relative to what providers, directors, owners need to know today to help their business thrive. You know, one of the things that we've really been working hard to promote through the webinars is some education on how to use technology to move away from dusty binders and writing your own curriculum and all of those things.
Yeah.
That take your time. It may be what you love to do, but really what you love to do is see children thrive. And so there are a number of great resources out there for that. Like we have some of our business affiliates offer discounts, Learning Without Paper, Frog Street, to name a few. And we've been slowly building that part of our offering, because when I first came on board, we had one business affiliate, and it was Geico. And not that I have anything against Geico, but I didn't see it as Storm and I and our small team didn't see it as really a benefit to help our childcare businesses thrive for children and families. So every one of ours are very carefully, thought about before we engage, in that affiliation. And so our webinars have been very, very popular and well received. We've done a couple on advocacy specifically, but also we've got the behavior challenges that we're seeing from COVID babies. So we've focused on that. We've just done what we hear and see from our members in the childcare community at large. What do they need? And I'm really excited to tell you that we are going to have our first National Child Care Conference.
All right.
In April of 2024 in
Wonderful.
Austin, Texas.
All right.
I consider that a benefit, because
yes,
earlier it was a great opportunity for people to come together.
Yes, absolutely. So that's fantastic. I love that news. April of 2024 in Austin. And I would love to attend that. So how
on our list of people that we will be talking to about it, but I knew I couldn't come to this call today and not mention it, because one of the questions was, what was I looking forward to in 2023?
Yeah.
And that you said you might bring up. And one is, we're really in the thick of preparing for this.
Okay.
And so it just preparing. And I have to tell you, Kris, when we have our conversations about, great, experiences for childcare people, we can't say enough about, we hope to someday be able to do it as well as you do, and really work hard to do some of the things we've learned from you, but it'll be on a smaller scale. And, we're still taking a few toddler steps, but having you there would be, in fact, one of our topics is celebrating a resilient past. And certainly you've been a part of our past.
Yes.
And so I have a feeling we'll be sending you an invitation.
Oh, good. I love that. And I'd be honored to speak there or just be there to connect. The energy, our owners and providers need these conferences to fill their bucket. So what my team and I have tried to do more than anything is make it inspiring and fun. And so we lead with that, because they can get, great information through webinars and professional development. And we try to bring something different that has them also just being loved on, because this is a really hard job. It's a really hard job. And so we have to speak up for ourselves and each other. And we need to tell our story in a bigger way and be brave to show up for ourselves, and because nobody else is going to, and so we Cindy, we're like arm in arm with you guys, like we got to go do this and be advocates for this industry, because what I always say that happened during COVID, and you mentioned it about essentials, there's no industry more essential than childcare if we want to get America back to work fully. And there's still moms and dads sitting on the sidelines
Yes,
that are
lots
not,
of women.
where I'm watching closely the labor force participation rates and historically, and looking at trends in employment and all of that, because we have to continue in childcare deserts, especially to provide quality care, so that moms can feel confident to leave their baby.
Absolutely.
And that's why we're here. So give us, let's get how can people find out more about NCCA membership, and like, what's the website, or what's the best way to connect with you for listeners?
The actual website is nationalchildcare.org. And they can certainly call or email us. I will tell you, I give everybody my cell phone number.
Oh.
If you want to call me, if you need a shoulder to cry on, if you want to just ask a how-to question, I feel like I'm at that point in my life that's what I should be doing, because
Right.
I want to help those coming up. And I learned a lot, and I learned a lot from mistakes and I learned a lot from other people. And it's like, if I can save you a mistake, or if I can just reassure you that what's happening to you is happening to others.
Yeah.
So my number is 405-922-2140. But again, you can also email me. All that information is on our website. And again, I look forward to the day I have too many calls.
Yes. I love that. That's so heart-centered. That's just an amazing thing. Thank you so much. That's fantastic. So again, nationalchildcare.org, and then 405-922-2140. Very cool. Very cool. I want to finish with an impact question in terms of looking back. I'll just say one person that has had a really big impact on your life, and why?
Okay, well, I'd like to just quickly say two. Are you okay?
Okay, that's fine. Two is fine.
Okay, first of all, my dad. My dad was a small business owner, and there's two things he taught us, me and my siblings, and that was, one, treat other people the way you want to be treated. And he not only said it, but he demonstrated it throughout his whole life. And the other thing he always taught us was, life is what you make it. So I think about that when I think about my career and helping others through their careers and finding their success in the industry, and making sure that families can feel confident in what we do and who we are. And then I mentioned her earlier. Her name was Kathy Kronmiller. She was my mentor, that I said, stalked me. She owned 5 childcare centers. The reason I said, let's write a bill, is Kathy decided we were going to write a bill in Oklahoma many years ago. And so we were able to help write a bill and make some changes in the system there that really benefited providers and children and families. So she was definitely my professional mentor and guiding light. And she's the one that also taught me, in southern states that have a lot of children living at or below the poverty level and needing funded, programs, is how to braid those funds. And that is food program. She taught me that and she taught me about accreditation, and many states actually, pay more if you can demonstrate through accreditation.
Yes.
And so she taught me all that. And it really, I always felt like if it hadn't been for Kathy, I don't know that I would have known as much about how to balance the operation and the financial success.
Yeah, I love that. And for folks that are listening that aren't using food program, and that aren't taking advantage of QRIS dollars in their state, assuming their state gives them, which lines up beautifully with accreditation and potentially accreditation dollars. So give a plug too for Neckpa, because my friend Storm is over there running Neckpa, which is part of your organization now. You guys are sister organizations.
Yeah, she's our parent, Neckpa is our parent company at this time. And Storm and I, we just worked a conference together up in Indiana. And met with a lot of folks up there.
Cool.
And they love NCCA accreditation. But one of the things that we teach at NCCA, and we did this at the conference up in Indiana, it was an IAYC conference, is that we want you to pick, while we certainly love NCCA, we want you to pick the accrediting body that works best for you. So we actually we've done a webinar, and when we go on the road, we usually teach a class about these are, some of your options and how each one is different, but the end result is the same. But I will say this, Storm has a team of people that are the most customer-driven people I have ever met. And it's one of the reasons that I chose NCCA accreditation, was that the organization was so customer driven when I was trying to accredit schools. So thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome. And I have a feeling Kathy Cronmiller sounds really familiar to me. I have a feeling that I worked with her directly when I went to Oklahoma and spoke.
Oh, you had to have, because she was the person in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we lost Kathy to COVID during the pandemic, before there were any of the drugs to help fight it and the vaccinations. She was very healthy and just go all the time. But unfortunately, she did have asthma and she could not recover.
Wow. Well, this episode can be dedicated to Kathy and people like her. It sounds like she was quite a spitfire and quite an advocate for early childhood. And I am very blessed to have had that experience and to have this experience with you here today and knit it all together, all of our journeys. Very, very cool. And we're going to keep going. So thanks.
Put on my bucket list. We're going to write a bill.
Yes, let's do that.
Some more people, and we're going to write.
All right. We're going to write a bill. You guys heard it here first.
Yes. Thank you so much, Kris. And thanks for what you're doing for the members, your members out there. They need you.
Yeah.
Just again, I can't emphasize enough. The first time I came to your conference, and it was actually Storm's grandmother, Missy Webb, that I went with, because she said you have to go to a Mary Summit. And I was so glad that all of our small business owners had a resource to go to, because I did have, a corporate office. So I had access to finance people and, curriculum people and individuals that made a huge difference in me being able to be successful. And knowing that our small businesses, because again, our small businesses make up 93% of this industry. And that's not going to change that much. And it shouldn't, because it's a community-based type business.
That's right. That's right.
Well, thank you.
I love that. Thank you so much. And yes, another shout out to Missy Webb. I have to just honor that lady too, because I love her so much. And I hope to see her again in this world.
She's trying to retire.
I know she is. She's one of those people that just, she's in her 70s, God love her. And the world just doesn't want her to retire. But, but yeah, I love her. And I'm glad that she brought you to one of our conferences. And so we'll continue connecting and trying to do good work for folks in this industry. So thanks again, Cindy Lehnhoff, Director of NCCA. It's been great to have you here. And thanks everybody for tuning in on this one. It's an important one here at Childcare Rockstar Radio. Take care and God bless.
Bye, Kris.
Bye. Episode of Childcare Rockstar Radio. If you did, please share it with someone you know and help spread the word to your friends in our industry and on social media. Childcare business success is my passion, and I'm honored to be on this journey with you. As a thank you for listening, learn more about how to grow your business and make more income with our brand new free quiz. the What's My Number One Income Killer quiz exclusively for preschool and childcare owners. Take the quiz today at childcarequiz.com to discover what your number one income killer is and how to solve it. Take care and God bless.